Bronson, like uh, like Charles. This old folks get that. The kids don't. They don't know what I'm talking about, and they're not impressed when I say it's like my second cousin or something like that. Uh, I'm just glad to be here, and and it's an honor. Also, like I was, what a great. The preamble is just really just nails it. I've only heard it 3 times, but I my ears perk up. And the administrators of this group were kind enough to send me an email with some bullet points, and I'm grateful for that. Although I do have a lot of public speaking, it's generally in more safe places. That didn't really sound right, but um, not getting recorded. That's for sure. So here I am. It's a little bit more vulnerable than what I'm used to, and you know we're touching on a topic that I haven't really shared. Uh, I haven't shared it with strangers. That's for damn sure. And it's just it's just a story of a cook uh, and shame and alcohol and my alcoholism isn't really the main talking point. It was certainly it certainly made things harder, but I expect some friends of mine to see this video, and uh, and that's a past that I've tried to run away from, and I think one of them just popped on now. Anyhow, so I run a restaurant um, at a hippie hot springs on the edge of the Tahoe National Forest. Most people don't know where where the hell we're at. Ironically, one of the attendees here actually knows where I live. She used to work in a kind of a larger town nearby, probably many moons ago. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm a chef by trade, but this place is so small. I try to make other decisions. like right now, one of the questions that I was given, besides just announcing myself, was um, let's see here, what's been the biggest hurdle lately sustaining my mental health in this industry, and the answer to that is currently I don't have a job. Um, the whole world has been obviously affected by a novel virus, meaning we don't have immunity to. We don't have anything to fight it off because it's just never existed before. So obviously, the world is so interconnected; it's affecting the entire world, and it's preaching to the choir and like be Captain Obvious here. It's obviously affected our industry. Um, So yeah, now historically, the challenge has been for the last 7.5 years. I haven't had a drink and participate in my recovery to stay abstinent from alcohol. My so historically, before I got sober, my challenges with the industry have been mostly of my making. But after I got sober, my challenges were they changed because my values have changed and my perspective and ethos have shifted. So trying to get my personal goals to match up with my professional goals has been slightly challenging. The next thing I was asked to touch base on was my rock bottom, and what mental health issue did I battle. So that's primarily alcoholism, and but not to say that if you don't understand alcoholism, the thing is, it's not liquor's fault. What I learned that it's me, um, and what yeah. So I wrote down like all my relationships were painted or stained by alcoholism. Um, when I got sober, I was 34 years old. I am no longer 34. Um, how did I know it was a problem? Well, I think it had finally dawned on me that the way I was going, it was going to kill me. And not necessarily because I wanted to take my own life, although I gotten pretty low. But the way I drank was mostly in a blackout, so the trajectory I was on was jails and hospitals and if you're in a blackout, you really don't have any control of any of your faculties. So chances are I was going to probably mute Mr. Drew Williamson. But yeah, so alcohol was going to kill me, and I thought that was probably going to come pretty soon. Plus, I was just I you know I've had really happy moments, plenty of them. Um, so I knew life was capable of delivering um, happy moments, and I was miserable, and I was fairly positive that it shouldn't be like this, and something had to change, and I desperately wanted something to change. So I well, and another way I knew that it was a problem is in one way or another, people told me, whether or not they had the courage to verbally tell me or from my life altogether. Um, yeah, so rock bottom. That I personally struggle with alcoholism. Um, how would I describe a particular antidote? So the story that I kind of wanted to share with you guys is something that I don't tell very many people. It was actually kind of funny when I wasn't the original speaker. I kind of came in because someone had canceled, so um, they're like, "Oh, you got to send in a headshot and a quick little bio," and so I'm like copy and pasted from some other goofy ass thing I had. The funny part about that for me is that I've been very, very, very careful with my words on how I write a bio or how I fill out a resume to a potential employer. So I get to say really cool and groovy things like I was on the Olympic team in the year 2000. We were I was on a team that represented the United States in the junior category for the first time ever, and that team took silver. Well, the truth is, I didn't go to Germany. Um, I was on that team, and here's what happened. I was on that team for a really long time, and we won state, and we won regional, and we won nationals, and they made me cut my hair, and we were uh, we were put together to go to the Olympics. There was an age requirement, and when I first tried out for that culinary team, well, first off, I didn't know you could letter and cooking. I didn't know teams got together. I was green as green could be. I didn't know anything about anything. I knew I wanted to be a chef. And maybe the Food Network had something to do with that. Maybe it was this girlfriend I had in high school. A friend of the family was a professor at some culinary school, and he wound up being my coach. And I got placed in a really well. I owe a lot to the kitchen and the chef I worked with, and more importantly, of the friends that I made there. And we all wanted to be chefs, and it was because I had that desire to be a part of that team, and I got placed in underneath a chef because the culinary school, the ACF, right? They do like apprenticeships and so on and so forth. And well, I really wanted to fit in, and I didn't drink at all. I couldn't handle my liquor. Like, my girlfriend would have to hold my ponytail while I puked after like 3 beers. And I was just kind of a kid on a skateboard that couldn't really button, I'd miss a hole in my shirt during an interview, and I just wound up in the kitchen. And there was a lot of us like that. And so I was just kind of the stoner kid. And well, everybody got together like every night to party. And I said, well, I just felt so glad I was invited, first off. And I don't really drink. And this guy, a front of the house manager, like old dude, right? He was probably in his 30s. He was in a suit, and he looked at me and he said, "That'll change." And sure as shit, he was right. Now, I don't know if everyone I drank with back then was an alcoholic. It's not my place to say, but I know my nights started to end a lot differently than theirs. And then and then my high school sweetheart, we were like one of those couples in high school that everyone's like most likely to get hitched or whatever. And and she finally got sick of my shit because I was changing, and not really for the better. And we broke up, and then I started drinking to change the way I felt. And looking back, I think that might have been like an invisible line that I crossed. But here we are being curated to represent the United States of America in the goddamn Olympics, and I'm circling the drain. And my friends know it. The coach knows it. The administrator of the school knows it. And hell, I know it. And there are other people that wanted my spot and deserved it. Um, that were putting in more work than I was capable of. And just like any good breakup, they called me into the office and they wanted me to get my shit together, but I I couldn't. I couldn't stop being the way I was. And so I broke up with them before they could break up with me. And yeah, so I quit the team, and my friend just popped in here, we worked together, and I remember he looked at me and he's like, "God damn it, Adam! Like, what are you doing? Like, you don't quit an opportunity like this." And I had no words I couldn't explain it to him. I couldn't have come up with any words to explain to him like I can't stop being like this, and there's nothing I can do about it. And it went on like that. Eventually I couldn't finish school because I couldn't show up to class, or I said I didn't want to, or maybe I learned more at work than I did at school. And the truth is, I could barely show up on time, and it kind of looked like I had a good work ethic, but I just put my head down and worked for as long as they told me to work, so no one would notice how goddamn hungover I was. And then eventually, like, if people in my little circle, of chef, drinking chef buddies, I couldn't pass the classes. I wasn't going to get my degree. And by this time, everybody had me figured out. They're like, "Oh, if you said Adam's name, you might say like, yeah, he's a pretty good chef, but," and I didn't like how the blanks were filled in. The guy's a partier, he's a drinker, and so I left. I drove 2,000 miles west and left. And I figured I'd just start over somewhere else. And I did. I just didn't really open up the chapter that like a shiny new quarter. Like I brought all my problems with me, plus my knife kit and a couple changes of underwear. And I remember my new employer called up my old chef. So here I am in Lake Tahoe. My new employer calls my old chef in fucking Kansas City and goes, "Why the hell did you send me an alcoholic?" And then job after job after job, and I'm trying to work, just keep my head down and stay ahead of my actions that I have no control over. So the truth is, I've I don't keep in touch with my old friends back home as much as I should, and I know I cause a lot of damage in those relationships, and if those guys and those gals that were on the Olympic team with me ever watch this video, you know, I'm sorry for all that, and maybe we can reconnect, and then somehow I can make things right. But yeah, that's my Olympic story, and so here I am out in Reno, and I get decent jobs, and I do well enough. I cook good food, and that's about the only thing that's worth looking at. And so that's the only thing I want you to see, because it's the only thing I'm proud of. Because if you knew anything else about me, you wouldn't like me. And I met some gal that, she kind of filled out a chef code, and we made a baby, and and all of a sudden now I was tasked with looking at myself of being more than just a chef, as my that's how I saw myself. That's how I wanted you to see me. That was my identity. But now I'm a father, and I knew I was not the father I was supposed to be, not the father that this kid needed. And I had a panic attack. I knew I needed to get right. He was 8 when I got sober. Now he's 15 and a half now. But so to try to finish this thing as prescribed, that was an antidote. That the next question I'm faced with is, what action did I take to change? Well, I was fairly sure that I had a drinking problem. And back then, the internet wasn't really prolific, so I could look up the phone book, and sure as shit, right there in the beginning, under the A's, uh, was an acronym for a 12-step group that I didn't really know too much about, but I think I might have found some solutions there. And with some trial and error, well, that's what happened. I investigated, learned what they had to say, and kind of did what they said that I should do. That was going to help my particular malady. And to be fair, like, these groups are prolific. 12-step groups in general, especially in cities, which was kind of a geographic antidote. When I told my friends I was moving from Missouri to Reno, man, they looked at me like, "Are you serious, Adam? Like, you're gonna move to a town that drinks 24 hours a day, and you think things are gonna work out?" Oh, sure. So, um, I lost my place. What action did I take to change? What are some tools you have found? Um, well, you know, the neat part is that there's a lot of groups that are willing to help out with a lot of different subjects. Um, there's acronyms all over the place. It's not just, booze and drugs. There's codependency and issues around work and gambling and ad infinitum. But I think the point I want to make is that, like, whatever it is, I encourage folks to seek out and investigate. The tools that are gained is just, for me, it's just a new way to live, um, that I continue to discover and hone in community. Meaning not just myself with my weird ass thoughts, thinking that I'm going to figure out what's wrong with me and be able to fix it, since I am primarily the maker of most of my problems. So I was just like this group. I mean, just like this, getting vulnerable, getting real, talking outside. If we spend an hour in here making relationships, keeping in touch with old friends, making new friends, and getting real about what's going on in each other's lives, I think those are the tools. Um, let's see. How how do you stay resilient in order to carry on living out passions? I might have skipped one over, but anyhow, the best example of resiliency I've been able to interpret, I actually got from my fiance. She was describing one moment in particular, and she kind of coined a phrase, at least in my mind, and she referred to this moment as accumulated reverence. And she's a pretty cerebral type of gal, but whether she knows it or not, it made a spiritual impact with me. I don't know where people get resiliency from. I know personally, I don't manifest it from myself by myself. Uh,
Very different person now than what I know.
I get resiliency
He's very
from listening to you guys and hearing what you are going through and feeling connected. Um, and how do I follow my passions? Well, I mean, most of my life I was running from myself, and I only had one thing that I was proud of, and that was being a chef. So these days, uh, I get to I get to be more than just one thing. I'm a father, a husband, a son. I try to be good at those things, and then I get to play. I play drums, trumpet, hockey, sail. Get to sail on some boats here and there. Um, and there's another question referring to like what how do I battle pressures that come up? So outside of the scope of my group, meaning outside of my struggle with alcohol, um, I sought. There's been times where I sought other sources of help, sometimes professional, and I got good at saying, "I don't know," and then asking for help. And when I'm acting like a mature adult, and that's kind of I like to use those words, but in my heart, when I'm really spiritual, thus being mature, um, like a spiritual gangster, I get to call on my greatest asset, which I've learned is being wrong and getting to correct that and being aware of how other people feel and getting to right where I've caused wrong, whether I think it's real or imagined or whether I intended to do it or not. If I hurt someone else, um, so if there's like one thread, if there's one thread in this thing that I'd want to share with the group, um, and it's hard for this stuff not to sound cliche or trite, you know, and especially concerning our craft. I still don't know what else I would do if I wasn't a chef. Um, I do think it is an honorable craft, and I do think there is some real heritage and lineage to passing this thing on. And there's I think there's a real responsibility in that too. I also think there's some accountability too that I'd like to be a voice and I'd like to be one of many to help change this industry. Obviously for the better, where humans are kind of tucked in there on the bottom line of that spreadsheet, where we are generally concerned about our peers, and can reach out and notice when they need help and maybe and know how to help. And that's a lot of top down stuff too. And you know, and I speak to restaurant owners, and there's a culture that we that has wound up. It's made a lot of us, and some of that's been good and some of that's bad. But I think the important part that I circled and I capitalized is we. Like we do this. I don't pretend to go down and run a restaurant by myself. I never have and I never will. I'll never run a kitchen by myself. And these things don't come to fruition out of one person's effort. So the same very reason that we're all here uh, is, well, first off, it's just amazing how we've been able to pivot and we can all sit here and talk. and listen on this platform is great. So I think we're stronger than anyhow. That's certainly enough out of me, I think.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.